Doom 3 is a first-person shooter that was developed by id Software, published by Activision, and was originally released on the PC in August of 2004, but found its way to the Xbox console in April of 2005. Both the PC and console versions of the game were met with critical acclaim at the time of their release, and the game ended up selling over 3.5 million copies across both platforms. Now, although this game is titled Doom 3, it is not a sequel and is actually a reboot of the franchise. Taking place in a scientific research facility on Mars in the year 2145, you play as an unnamed space marine that has just landed on the planet for his first day of work. Your new employer is researching and developing all sorts of technology and weaponry, and one of its latest projects is teleportation. Sounds great, right? Wrong, because this immediately goes south and scientists accidentally open a portal to hell. So now you're stuck on Mars and a giant door to the demon world has been cracked wide open, causing all manner of monsters to flood the facility, murder and possess everyone in sight, and generally cause all sorts of chaos. From this point forward you have two objectives really: stop the demon invasion and get out of the facility safely. It's not Shakespearean stuff of course, but it's Doom, so that doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters about this game is that it provides you with an action-packed shooter experience, and Doom 3 does so excellently. Now, I'm going to assume that if you're a subscriber, or even if you're visiting my channel for the very first time, there is a strong chance that you know what Doom is. Arguably the grandfather of the first-person shooter genre, the series was historically all about the action. However, Doom 3 is a little different. The shorthand description for this game would be to say that it reminded me of both Half-Life and BioShock. The game isn't broken up into missions, but instead features areas that are mostly linear but do offer the opportunity for some exploration, and the world is littered with audio files and documents that provide a little more context as to what exactly was going on here before everything went wrong. All of the added story is fine. It isn't necessarily worth seeking out, but at the same time I wouldn't say you should ignore it either. It is a nice touch from the developer that they went to such lengths to build more of a world, but really we're all just here to shoot some demons. Well, what will come as no surprise to any of you is that the shooting is great. Whether armed with a pistol, shotgun, assault rifle, chainsaw, or the BFG 9000, there are no complaints here when it comes to the action. Weapons are wonderful to use. While some games would aim for a realistic sway and heavy animation, Doom says to hell with that and provides a precise shooting experience that works massively in its favour. Ammo is also quite scarce at times, which forces you to switch weapons frequently, so although you may have a favourite weapon that you fall back on, you'll have no choice but to get the full use out of the arsenal if you want to succeed. If there is one thing that I would say that lessens the experience for me ever so slightly, it is the choice to prevent the player from holding a weapon and flashlight at the same time. This game is dark. It is very dark, and intentionally so. You'll spend a lot of time walking around in almost pitch black with your trusty flashlight that just barely illuminates a room, and this is to add atmosphere and tension, and while it does turn up the creepiness a notch, there are times where you'll get swiped by a demon in a dark room, and instead of it being the jump scare it was intended to be, it's more of an annoyance at times as you lose a chunk of health because the main character couldn't even hold a knife in his spare hand. This is a minor gripe, to be honest. When taken as a whole, the gameplay is fantastic. It offers solid shooting in a great futuristic / horror setting. It offers a decent story to follow with optional extras if you'd like to dive in more into the lore, and it manages to keep you on track, preventing you from getting lost in its dim corridors, while also at the same time rewarding you for exploring with ammo and health pickups. Doom 3's design is another area in which the game really stands out, and there is definitely a conversation to be had about it being one of the best looking games on console at the time. Perhaps the best praise I could give Doom 3 is that I felt like I was looking at a game that had somehow been brought over from the Xbox 360, and although the game's poorly lit atmosphere doesn't always allow you to appreciate its world, when the lights are on, it does not disappoint. In addition to this, the demons that feature in the game are also well designed, and when I say they are well designed, I basically mean that they all look intimidating or incredibly gross. Oh god. I won't spoil some of the more outlandish creatures for you that feature later in the game, but what I will say is that you can really tell that id Software took their time and went the extra mile when it came to getting creative about how these monsters should look, and it paid off in my opinion. I also enjoyed the sound design in a way that I didn't expect. While I'm normally used to some sort of soundtrack subtly playing in the background during the quieter moments, Doom 3 has a lot of ambient noise and cold echoes that persist throughout the campaign and create a sense of loneliness as you work your way through these incredibly gross and grim areas. When the action heats up, however, the sound design does hold up as the enemies have a lot of great screeches, hisses and gargles when you're trapped in a room with them, and in return, your weapons have a great powerful impact and rattle to them when you're doing everything you can to stay alive. The main character doesn't really have anything to say, but as mentioned earlier, the world is populated with audio files and the occasional character that you'll run into, and lines are delivered well when needed. While I would have preferred more of the cheesy over-the-top experience, dialogue is delivered with a straight face, but at least they didn't slack on the performance.
Yes, Betruger. I think I do understand.
Okay, plan B.
I feel like there is a lot more that I could say about Doom 3, both good and bad, but I am conscious of time. Looking for an action-packed FPS? Well, you're in the right place. If you're looking for a well-designed horror game, you're also in the right place. And if you're looking for a game that features both of those, but also doesn't come up short in terms of content, then you are absolutely in the right place. Of course, there are things you could pick at. Sometimes it gets a little too carried away with the flashlight-based gameplay. Some of the enemies just charge straight at you and provide a little challenge, and sometimes you'll have to pause for a moment and say, wait, which way was I going again? But all of these are small marks on a pretty damn good game that controls well and is possibly one of the best looking games of its generation. And overall as a package, Doom 3 is a game that won't leave you regretting your trip to hell.